Our first four speakers I have are Doug Lorenzen, Sam Kokuka-Lore, Wayne Norris, and Ann Hinka. Dr. Lorenzen? Thank you.
Yes, my name is Douglas Lorenzen, and the last name is spelled Lorenzen, and I'm from Mount Gretna, Lebanon County, Pennsylvania. In Huffington, and my comments are on the use of double wall piping for monitoring and prevention of leaks. In a Huffington Post article regarding petroleum pipelines, it was reported that an investigation of pipeline accident reports from the last 10 years revealed that the much-touted leak detection systems employed by pipeline companies only catch 1 out of 20 spills. Further, it was reported by pipeline companies in the same article. Not only do pipeline detection systems miss 19 out of 20 spills, they miss 4 out of 5 spills larger than 42,000 gallons. In a New York Times article, it was reported that 2.8 million gallons of petroleum leaked from pipelines in 2011. Using the ratio of 1 to 20, the 2.8 million gallons might represent only 5% of the actual amount leaked, which could be up to 56 million gallons, a very large number. While these statistics relate to petroleum leak from pipelines, gas pipelines are subject to the same problems, especially since natural gas is transmitted under high pressure and more apt to leak. This is a huge problem and is a result of two factors: poor pipeline monitoring techniques and the number of leaks, both detected and undetected. Monitoring of all gas petroleum pipelines is carried out primarily by two methods. One is watching for pressure drops, and by the use of pigs, which are special devices threaded through the pipe to measure for leaks and look for corrosion. According to the New York Times article, the major causes for pipeline leaks are equipment failure, installation and construction, which is 49%, corrosion, 22%, human error, 10%, excavation damage, 6%, and others, 13%. Pipeline leaks caused by equipment failure and corrosion, total 71%, are what the common monitoring techniques used today are supposed to detect. These two monitoring techniques are obviously not doing the job. There are several reasons that explain the poor performance of these monitoring techniques. One, looking for pressure drops is very imprecise and subject to much variation and therefore unreliable. Two, according to legal partners, representative, the use of pigs is done only 7 to 10 years for any portion of a pipeline. These two monitoring methods are really very poor in detecting leaks in real time caused by equipment failure and corrosion. A leak could go on for years before being detected using these two types of techniques. Double wall piping is available but not currently required or in use by pipeline companies. Williams Partners has not proposed the use of double wall piping for this project. Because of its efficacy, double wall piping has been adopted and it is used by almost all fuel-related distribution industries except for the pipeline industry. It is almost exclusively used at service stations or gasoline stations for the piping from underground storage tanks to the pumps, in tank trucks that deliver gas products, and in ships that transport petroleum or gas products. Also, fuel suppliers who use rail transports are beginning to call for dual wall construction of rail tanker cars. Double wall piping can be described as one pipe placed inside the other. The two pipes are normally separated by a small space between them known as annular space. The outside pipe primarily protects the inside pipe from damage by corrosion, excavation, or other human activity. The annular space between the two pipes is also used to monitor for leaks inside the pipe. This is accomplished by placing gas detectors within the space. The gas detectors then provide real-time detection, preventing large losses over the time the product has to leak into the environment. In a final report by Secor, costs for dual wall pipeline construction is, quote, design, material, and fabrication was found to be 1.27 times greater than the single wall pipe. Other costs such as civil works costs, comprising excavation, backfill, and ice and road construction and abandonment are estimated to be the same for both alternatives. What this report did not and could not report on was the cost of environmental damage and cleanup. Based on my extensive experience with environmental cleanup and renovation of contaminated sites, I can say that the cost of pipeline cleanups can be in the millions of dollars and go on for decades. Double wall piping will not stop the leaks from occurring, but will go a long way to detecting leaks before they occur and preventing leaks from reaching the environment. The relatively small extra cost of 27% of employing the use of double wall piping should not be a deterrent to its use. The protection it provides through detecting and preventing leaks far outweighs its costs. Williams Partners want to install an extremely large 42-inch high-pressure gas pipeline that could have disastrous effects on human life and the environment should a leak and explosion occur. The small extra costs of employing the use of double wall piping and the protection it provides are more than enough reasons for double wall piping to be required to be used by the Williams Partners. That's it. I have a copy of this for you, or should I hand it? Okay.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Sam Kaplinkalair, Shale Gas Community Organizer with Clean Air Council. The Council is a member-supported organization that works to protect everyone's right to breathe clean air. We work with dozens of communities throughout the state that are facing shale gas infrastructure projects in their communities, doing public education and organizing to ensure that residents are able to access the regulatory processes and achieve their goals. Thank you to everyone who came out today. It's important to remember that we in the back of this room are actually the people who are impacted here. This is the community that has the power going forward out of this meeting. If you haven't yet signed up to speak, you can do so outside. There's still a sign-up list available. Currently, in the eastern part of Pennsylvania alone, there are over 10 proposed gas pipeline projects and expansions. Many of these pipelines, including Atlantic Sunrise, are bringing gas from Pennsylvania shale fields, but are destined for export facilities and international markets. In Williams' own materials, they have stated that the gas from Atlantic Sunrise would be delivered to Cove Point Export Facility in Maryland and be destined for overseas markets. There are a number of primary air quality concerns that the Council has regarding this project. According to NEPA, the National Environmental Protection Act, FERC is required to review direct, indirect, and cumulative impacts of the Atlantic Sunrise Pipeline in this environmental impact statement. Cumulative impacts are the incremental effects of the action when added to other past, present, and reasonably foreseeable future actions. In a recent court case, Delaware Riverkeeper Network versus FERC, it was found that FERC failed in its ability to actually assess the cumulative impacts of the proposed projects as it relates to segmentation. Going forward, we want to make sure that all cumulative impacts are taken into consideration with this particular environmental impact statement. Some cumulative impacts that FERC is legally required to analyze but has yet to do so are the increase in hydraulic fracturing due to additional demand for gas, health impacts to residents living near compressor stations, the potential for new hydraulically fractured wells in the area surrounding the pipeline, the impact to regional air quality from the increase in compressor stations and wells when combined with future actions, and the total contribution to greenhouse gas emissions from the extraction, transportation, and refining of the gas for export. In order to transport the gas across 180 miles of the pipeline route, William has proposed the addition of 127,000 additional horsepower for the pipeline. This means 2 new compressor stations, 3 expansions at existing sites. This will directly impact the air quality and the health of people living in the surrounding areas. To give a little bit of background for people in the audience and also for the folks here at the table, compressor stations have 3 main sources of air emissions. The first is blowdowns, or a release of gas from the pipeline into the atmosphere in order to relieve pressure, excess pressure in the pipeline. The second is fugitive emissions, gas leaks from around the seals and pumps at the compressor station. And finally, in order to provide the compression for the line, there must be constantly running engines 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year. Taken together, these 3 sources emit the following Clean Air Act regulated criteria pollutants: nitrogen oxide, hazardous air pollutants, particulate matter, carbon dioxide, volatile organic compounds, sulfur oxide, and carbon monoxide. These pollutants impact all major body systems from the brain to the digestive system. The environmental impact statement needs to address the health impacts from compressor stations as well as the emissions from reasonably foreseeable hydraulic fracturing that would result from this pipeline project. Finally, the projected air and greenhouse gas emissions from this project are going to be substantial, and they should be compared against a renewable energy alternative. In order to assess the difference between investing the $3 billion that the Atlantic Sunrise Pipeline would currently require or investing that $3 billion in these communities for community-based solar and wind projects. From our research and advocacy, it is clear that the latter would have higher economic impact, more jobs. On average, solar creates 3 times the jobs of the natural gas industry. It would also result in significantly lower air emissions. And furthermore, it would build energy independence here in central Pennsylvania rather than exporting gas overseas. The Council remains committed to working with impacted communities in stopping the Atlantic Sunrise Pipeline project. Please contact me if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Wayne Norris, for the record. It's spelled Norris. I am the president of Durabond Industries. And Durabond Industries is a family-owned business that operates the Stilton Pipe Mill that was formerly Bethlehem Steel in Stilton, Pennsylvania, under the name of Durabond Pipe. Durabond Pipe manufactures steel pipe used for the transportation of oil and natural gas in sizes ranging from 24 to 42 inch. We manufacture this pipe to the highest standard and is used to transport gas at very high pressure. Not only do we manufacture the pipe, but we also internally coat it and we externally coat it for corrosion protection with the latest epoxies that are available. We have worked with the Williams Pipeline for many years, most specifically within the last 10 or 15 years, manufacturing pipe at our plant there is built. The last project we manufactured, about 20% of the project they had called the Constitution Pipeline. That is proposed up in Susquehanna County up to New York. At our plant, we employ about 250 employees. These employees make a very good living wage with very good benefits. Many of those employees are actually from Lebanon County here in Lebanon, Pennsylvania as well. We manufacture pipe to the highest quality, I think, right now in the United States, to be very honest with you. Williams has some of the most stringent specifications for the manufacturing process. And not only that, when we manufacture the pipe, they have people there that inspect every aspect of the process that we do. They look at the metallurgical aspects of the steel that we purchase. They look at the forming, the welding, the non-destructive testing, the destructive testing, all the ultrasonic inspection that we do to ensure that the pipe that goes out of our mill is among the highest quality that they can buy. Williams has a safety program that we have to adhere to, and they're very well run and a very, as I said, very professionally run organization. And when we get when we have an order for Williams, we know that we have to manufacture the pipe to the highest standard. So I'm here tonight to support Williams and support the program and speaking on their behalf. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Annville.
Hello, my name is Annville PA, and I'm a resident of Lebanon County. Do you need me to spell my last name? It's Pinca. And Ann is just A-N-N. Okay. In January 2011, I was told that I needed to sacrifice my property in the mountains of Pennsylvania to the natural gas industry for the greater good of my country. Now, 3 years later, the people of Lebanon County are being asked to sacrifice their properties, their investments, their safety, under the same guise. We need the energy. We need the jobs. This is good for our country. But the fact is that this is not good for us or for our country. But it is really good for Williams and the drillers, who want nothing more than to build a pathway through Lebanon County to export Pennsylvania's natural gas for their profit at your personal sacrifice. And yet Williams still hasn't bothered, as far as I know, to answer our county commissioner's simple request for a public question and answer meeting in Lebanon County. Williams is just one player within an industry that stops at nothing to get what it wants. This industry uses the same publicity firm that Big Tobacco employed for decades. This industry recommended the use of military psyops and counterinsurgency manuals to deal with citizen opposition to drilling. This industry has so far contributed nearly $8 million to Pennsylvania's political process. The Atlantic Sunrise Project will support an industry that has exemptions or exclusions from key parts of at least 7 of the 15 major federal environmental laws designed to protect our air and water. One of those is the National Environmental Policy Act, which contains a 2005 exemption that, quote, effectively shifts the burden of proof to the public to prove that such activities would be unsafe. So tonight, we citizens gather here to prove that this pipeline is not safe or good for our county. We've heard and will hear many more eloquent, intelligent, and heartfelt comments this evening. And many people will go home thinking that surely the FERC will address our concerns. Well, think again. Ask the people who objected to the Mark I pipeline, the Tennessee pipeline, and even the Team 2014 expansion project going on right now in Lebanon County. And you'll find that our comments make little difference. Why? because the FERC doesn't work for us, the people. It works for the corporations who fund it. Williams' Senior Vice President, Rory Miller, summed it up in a first quarter earnings call. When asked about the Constitution Pipeline, Miller said, quote, "We're very satisfied with what the FERC has been doing so far. They've been trying to, I think, do their part in terms of helping us get projects built." And that's what the FERC's job is, to help get projects built. So we have two choices. We can make a deliberate change and insist on a community bill of rights within our townships that empowers us to say no thanks to industries like Williams, or we can continue to play along with the FERC process and attend meetings dictated to us on inconvenient nights, and eventually watch the Central Penn Pipeline cut, drill, and dig its way across our county's farms, forests, streams, and homes. I know which choice I'm making. Do you? Thank you.
Next school speakers are Gordon Tu, James Hepburn, Sherry Stone, and Karen Green.
Good evening.
Sorry. Don't start your time.
Hi. My name's Gordon Tom. Last name's T-O-M-B, like Tomb. And no other explanation except that it's Scots-Irish. I'm a resident of Annville, Lebanon County, and a senior fellow with the Commonwealth Foundation for Public Policy Alternatives. As an organization dedicated to free market approaches to state issues, the Commonwealth Foundation has been a long-time supporter of the development of the Marcellus shale gas. We see it as an endeavor that's benefited millions of Pennsylvanians with lower energy costs and a more vibrant economy. Billions of dollars have been saved in utility bills, and hundreds of thousands of people have secured high-quality jobs in Marcellus shale-related industries. Drilling companies have paid landowners billions in royalties, and many more billions have been transferred to state and local governments in fees and taxes. Having lived through the decline of the steel industry and manufacturing in general, I and many other Pennsylvanians welcome the investment of capital into our state. The Commonwealth Foundation supports the expansion of gas delivery systems such as the Atlantic Sunrise Expansion Pipeline project being proposed by Williams. Projects like the pipeline and the resultant access to new markets will ensure that this gas resource is further developed in the coming decades. We see the Marcellus shale not only as a long-term boon for Pennsylvania's economy, but also a key contributor to the nation's energy security and economic prosperity. The development of the Marcellus shale has been done safely under rigorous and sensible regulation. And we expect that the builders and the operators of the pipeline will adhere to similar safety and environmental standards. In fact, pipelines have been transporting gas from the southwestern part of the country through Pennsylvania into the Northeast to the benefit of hundreds of millions of people for more than half a century. The Atlantic Sunrise Project makes every bit as much sense as did those earlier additions to our energy infrastructure. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Hi, staff members of FERC and public, welcome tonight. I am an environmentalist, and I am an endangered species. And guess what? I'm also known as a farmer. That is my profession. And I want to talk a little tonight, especially to you staff people, about the ramifications of this proposed Atlantic Sunrise Pipeline, the environmental havoc it's going to produce on our farms in this area. Have you noticed the beautiful fields as you drove here tonight? Did you see them? Aren't they lovely? The green crops growing. I especially want to focus this talk on the southern half of this proposed pipeline corridor, Schuylkill, Lebanon, and Lancaster counties. These are areas of intensive agriculture, diversified. There's dairy, beef, poultry, fruits and vegetables, grains, all kinds of food being grown here. Not only will this pipeline be problematic during the construction to the farms that it crosses, taking years and more likely decades to restore. But the restrictions put on this pipeline are going to limit future growth and expansion necessary for farmers to compete in this ever-changing economy. A few examples on my farm where this corridor is going to dissect me in half. We have plans for possible subsoil irrigation. That's no longer going to be an option. We cannot dig where this pipeline is going. What about our plans? I happen to own a dairy farm. We may need to add cow numbers in the future. This pipeline is 150 feet from my current dairy barn. Where are we going to go to expand it? No-till farming is used on over 90% of the land of this pipeline corridor. It takes decades to instill a productive ecosystem in the soil. The disturbance will affect soil health, crop yields, and water absorption for a long time. The NRCS, known as the Natural Resource Conservation Service, has declared all of this land in Schuylkill County as HEL, highly erodible land, according to a soil survey through the county. Any earth-moving practices have the potential to cause large amounts of runoff, soil erosion, water runoff, nutrient leaching, other environmental problems. In the valley where I live, which is known as the Macantungo Valley, which is an Indian term meaning plentiful venison, there is a DEP study going on sedimentation in the Macantungo watershed, and it's currently going from 2014 through 2016. This pipeline is proposed to come through this valley in 2016. Certainly, this can't work with the soil and water runoff from the disturbed areas and this study taking place. This will be terrible information. Many of the farms this corridor is passing through, including my own, has been preserved with taxpayer money for perpetuity to keep it from being condemned. And I ask you, is this in the public good, staffers? Is this what we need to do? Should pipeline rights-of-way be allowed on preserved farms that have in many cases been paid for with taxpayer money? Does this in fact create a taxpayer subsidy for the easy right-of-way of pipeline operators? Even if a pipeline right-of-way is not prohibited in a conservation easement, there is the question of whether a pipeline impacts the ag benefit to a community. How can we let this happen? We didn't temporarily preserve these farms until something better came along. One of the reasons we preserved our land was to keep it from being condemned by schools, roads, and utilities. And another environmental issue. As a farmer, as an environmentalist, representatives of Williams tell us there's going to be heat generated by the friction of this compressed gas against the wall of the steel pipe. There is no information I can find about the effects, short and long term, that this will have on crop production, water retention in the soil, and its long and short term effects. How will this impact my livelihood? This soil is how I make my living, and it's going to be badly disrupted, and I'm very upset. We're also concerned about static electricity, sometimes known as transient voltage, and its effect on animals and human health. It's a known fact that even fractions of a volt will have severe impacts on animal performance. Like I told you, I have a dairy farm. I have 250 animals. I'm concerned about what's going to happen. This is proposed to be within 150 feet of my barns. What assurance will I have that this is not going to happen? Will the Williams people simply tell me, don't worry, everything's going to be fine? That's what I've been told so far. We've never had an issue with any of these things. That really reassures me. I feel really great. Why not use a less invasive option? Consider updating the existing horseshoe pipeline that already is in place, thereby not disturbing new areas of this beautiful Commonwealth. We cannot randomly run these pipelines wherever it is thought by some that we need them, honeycombing the state. We both know there's going to be more coming. This is not going to be the last one. This is destroying the stewardship practices that have gone on for generations, 8 in my family, and interfering with the core values of the citizens who make their living here. Shouldn't food certainly trump energy? Thank you.